Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the global economy and show you something you probably never think about: the secret life of a product. We're going to follow the invisible journey of the things we buy every single day and really demystify this massive, complex world of supply chains that makes it all happen.
I mean, really think about it. The chair you're sitting in right now, or maybe the phone in your hand. It seems so simple, right? But getting it to you was this epic journey and involved thousands of decisions, some seriously complex calculations, and what is basically a perfectly synchronized global dance. So where does a journey like that even begin?
Well, it all starts with one single fundamental choice. Before a single screw is turned, before any fabric is cut, a company has to decide: are we going to make this thing ourselves, or are we going to have someone else make it for us?
And that, right there, is the classic make versus buy dilemma. If you make it, you're using your own factories, your own people, your own resources. If you buy it, outsource it, you're handing that work over to an external partner. This one choice really sets the entire supply chain in motion. It decides who you work with, where your stuff comes from, and just how much control you actually have over the whole process.
So how on earth do they decide? Well, a lot of the time, it comes down to this idea of a core competency. A company basically has to ask itself, what are we uniquely, absolutely brilliant at? A perfect example is Apple. Their core competency is amazing design and software, so they pour all their energy into that, and they outsource the actual manufacturing of the iPhone to partners like Foxconn. See, the goal isn't to do everything yourself. It's to be the absolute best at the things that really, truly matter.
Okay, so the company has its parts, whether they made them or bought them. Now they've got a whole new challenge on their hands. How many of these parts should they keep lying around? And this brings us to the very tricky business of inventory.
We often think of a warehouse full of stuff as just waste, but it's way more complicated than that. Stocks act as a strategic cushion. They're an essential buffer between the unpredictable worlds of supply and demand. Think about it. They absorb shocks, like a sudden flood of customers or a delayed shipment from overseas. Without that buffer, the whole system could just grind to a halt.
But that buffer definitely comes at a cost. And this chart really shows that central trade-off perfectly. If you hold way too much stock, your costs go through the roof. You're paying for storage space, insurance, all that cost is just tied up. But if you hold too little, you face the cost of lost sales. That's when a customer wants to buy something and you just don't have it. The whole game is finding that just right Goldilocks balance right there in the middle.
All right, so we've got the parts and we have a plan for how many to store. But where do we physically put everything? This brings us to one of the biggest, most expensive decisions in any supply chain: location.
And choosing a location isn't about throwing a dart at a map. Not at all. It's a really methodical process. Companies start big. They choose a general region or a country. Then they narrow it down to a specific community or a city. And finally, they analyze individual plots of land. Every single step involves weighing dozens of factors, from local labor costs to the quality of the roads.
One of the coolest tools they use for this is something called the center of gravity model. It's kind of like finding the perfect balance point for a spinning plate. It uses some fancy math to pinpoint the ideal spot that minimizes the total travel distance and cost. It's all about balancing the flow of raw materials coming in from your suppliers with the flow of finished products going out to your customers. It's a beautiful compromise.
Now, all of these decisions we've talked about, make versus buy, how much inventory to hold, where to build the factory, they're all designed to do one thing: drive profit. So let's look at how these operational choices actually translate to the bottom line. To put it simply, there are really two main levers you can pull to boost financial returns. First, you can increase your margin. That's just how much profit you make on each individual thing you sell. Or you can increase your capital turns, which is a fancy way of saying how fast you sell through your entire inventory and turn it back into cash that you can then reinvest.
And this is where it gets really powerful. A tiny little improvement in your operations can set off this massive financial chain reaction. Let's say you figure out how to reduce the time it takes to set up a machine. Well, that means you can produce more products in the same amount of time. That means more revenue from the exact same assets, which flows directly to higher profits. It's this incredible direct link from the factory floor straight to the company's bottom line.
But in today's world, the story doesn't end with profit. Not anymore. The best, most successful companies out there understand that their legacy is defined by way more than just money. They have to think about their total impact on the world.
This is what people often call the triple bottom line. Yeah, economic performance, profit, is still absolutely vital. But it has to be balanced with social responsibility. How a company treats its employees and the communities it's a part of, and environmental performance, which is its impact on the planet. True long-term success means winning in all three of these areas.
So there you have it. We've followed the journey from a simple idea all the way to a finished product in your hands. It's a path that's shaped by these huge strategic decisions, mind-bending logistical puzzles, and a whole lot of financial math. So the next time you pick up, well, anything, just take a second to think about its secret life. What invisible journey did it take to get to you?